Welcome back, everybody. It's about time we get things started. So let's introduce our two teams coming up. Its first game is going to be H2O versus Human Tripwires.
Yeah, H2O looking for that first win. They definitely have the players to be able to pull it off, right? We saw in that highlight reel of previous matches that Alex is an absolute monster on the chamber. The problem is that they're running the chamber and not the JETT. It is meta, right? You don't have the JETT coming through as much now because the nerfs have come through. You have the 12-second window that allocates your time in and your opt if you want to use that dash, and if those 12 seconds time out and you haven't used the ability, you lose it for good, which makes it a lot harder for those JETTs to get the early points of contact with the operator, whereas, well, yes, Chamber has got hit with a nerf. It was on the trademark and not the rendezvous. So you do still have to watch your head when you're going for those early peaks, because chances are there's going to be a chamber with an op trained on your location, and then when you go for a trade, you just poofs right on out.
Well, the two teams coming up against each other, neither of them have a flawless win rate. H2O, in fact, have had a pretty difficult time of it so far. I don't think they've managed to get more than 14 rounds in a series so far. We'll be able to see if they can do that. They have come into some pretty difficult teams to start things off. Obviously, Kova and Hukar's one of the flawless teams that they've come up against here. So, you know. Maybe against a team like Human Tripwires, not quite the same caliber. I don't mean that in an offensive way, but not quite the same caliber maybe as Hukar's so far, and they, have had some more difficult matchups again. So 1-1 right now they are. So maybe, I could see there being a slight chance of an upset. Let's take a look at the H2O lineup here. Jaff, Rick, Fake Ananas, Alex, and Hattie. What do you think about this team?
So I find it really interesting because they do like to go for double controller on a map that we just saw the highlights of Breeze, but it's not double controller in the way that you expect. Hattie is still running on that Astra. When we talk about JETT getting hit by a nerf, well, Astra got hit by a sledgehammer. You don't have the amount of utility that you could use where you would always be able to spam it out. So, well, yes, you go for double control, you think, oh, I'm going to have so many smokes, I'm going to be able to control so much sites. Unfortunately, because of the way the Astra now is, you have to hold on to those nebulas and use them for really key moments. And even if you have the Viper coming through, a must pick on Breeze to slice up those line of sights, you are forced almost to kite the fight towards your toxin screen is, where you just lose all control of that space.
We can take a look at our second team coming into this one as well, Human Tripwires. They're a team that have won one, lost one so far. I think it was the first week that they lost just by XL. It was the first game actually altogether, and then they won their second game up against, if I can remember who it was. I can't remember who it was. I can't remember who they played second week. I'm not going to lie to you. I think it was Alliance. Yeah, no, it was Alliance. It was the last game, wasn't it? And yeah, no, that was one that kind of, surprised us a little bit. It wasn't exactly, like it was going to be Alliance's game all the way throughout. But it was a pleasant surprise to see Human Tripwires come up pretty dominantly actually as well. It's not like Alliance got a map on the board whatsoever. They only managed to get 7 and 8 rounds in the two games.
Yeah, and what's interesting about Human Tripwires is that it's essentially two teams mashed together, right? 3 of their players are currently playing on an entirely different team in another tournament. And Pathos actually on the desk against, I believe it was their Alliance matchup, made a really good point of how are you able to build that synergy when your time is always going to be split 50-50 between 2 different commitments, 2 different times. But the fact that they've already got synergy between those 3 players, Mucka, Embo, and DEV0, really allows the JETT and the controller and the initiator to just be able to pop off. And those are the 3 players that you have to watch out for. They're the ones with the synergy, the chemistry, and the crossfires that just absolutely break entries.
You wanted to talk about a little bit of a head-to-head before the broadcast started, so let's take a look here. Embo and Jaff are our 2 players that we're going to be looking at in this head-to-head, and we can just chat a little bit about why did you pick those players? What are you thinking coming into this?
So it's normally the duelists that we talk about, right? It's normally the duelists who make a lot of space, go on for those entries into the sites, but when you're running chamber over the JETT, suddenly you don't have a duelist to make that space, and much more importance falls on to your controller. Embo has been such a key piece for Human Tripwires. When he's able to pop off and give in the space, he comes in top frag or second top frag in the lobby when they win. When they lose, he's bottom frag and barely scrapes 17 kills in 2 maps. So you can really see how much of a reliance human tripwires have on him being able to play. On the other hand, you've got Jaff, and the fact that he shows sometimes do like to dip into that double controller means that there's a lot less pressure on him to be able to use that utility when it's really important, but at the same time not having that JETT to be able to make space. Your toxin screens, if you're coming in the Viper, especially if you get taken to Breeze, become so much more important to be able to make sure everyone gets safely through horrible places to push through, like when you're attacking A site and you've got to move all your pieces safely out of cave onto site, and you don't have a JETT with those cloud bursts to drop and disguise your entrance.
Yeah, and I think we think of controllers in an interesting way, because a lot of the time people will think of controllers as that kind of player that sits back, gets the lowest frags in the game, doesn't have a massive impact in terms of that, you know, kind of head-to-head gameplay. You know, it's just kind of helping the team out. You know, you think of a team like Sentinels, where Zombs classically was, you know, the controller and didn't really always end the, actually mostly ended the game 5th in the team in terms of kills, but that wasn't his job. But you think of a team more like Ascend, where you have that massive Omen gameplay, back in Champions area, obviously, you know, that was such a different look to the controller role, and I think that is kind of the difference that a lot of teams go for, is this: do we want to play controller where we're just playing for these smokes, we're just trying to keep the team ahead and just let the duelists do the work, or do we want to play controller more in this kind of interesting way where they're self-serving and they help themselves get up at the top of that leaderboard?
Yeah, and it's always a gamble, right? Because controllers are definitely one of those ones that you have to worry about lineups. Right, Viper rose to prominence not just on Bind, but also on Icebox, because if you were attacking that B site, you could just sit back in your spawn ship and line up your snake bites to be able to stop the diffusers all the way onto the B site. The same can be said for Breeze on the A site. You plant that spike right in front of Pyramids, you just sit back away from the fight. If things get a little bit hairy, you can rotate into Cave and get a couple of pot shots in to stop the diffuse that way, but it is always a gamble. If you do it too much, it's very predictable. You're always able to pin out that Viper's location, and having that distance in a fight can sometimes mean you lose it before you're even able to see it.
Well, we're drawing closer and closer to the start of this opening game. Let's talk about map vetoes. So we want to go through a little bit of a prediction here. Obviously, human tripwires, they seem to like Breeze quite a bit. H2O, they don't. So what do you think is going to happen coming into this one?
It definitely feels like both of these teams have maps where they really want to pull the other in, and the other is just going to go kicking and screaming. Because H2O, they love Fracture. In fact, it's been the insta-pick twice on the 2 weeks that we've seen them. And on the other side, you're right, human tripwires, they love pulling us to Breeze. And that means double controller, something that we're really yet to see H2O be able to pull off successfully. So if you're H2O, honestly, I want to see Breeze banned out the second that you can. It's much too much of a comfort for your opponents. If you've been watching the VODs, you have to know it is something that they use to get an easy leg up in their matches, and you have to take it off the table.
Yeah, no, I mean, okay, well, we can actually head over to that map veto and see exactly what those teams are going to be picking heading forward. But yeah, it's an interesting one, because these two teams have such a different map pool. They hate different maps, they like different maps. Here we go, it's Haven to start off with. We didn't expect any of these to come through, but I get the feeling, yeah, there you go, Fracture and Breeze, first bans coming through. So it is literally just, we're forcing each other to maps we don't like as much as usual. But oh well, you know, it's this kind of one where I hate your maps, you hate my maps, let's just play on Haven.
It really is just sort of like the middle child, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like everyone likes, we hate Split and Icebox, we love Bind, and then Haven's just there in the middle, simply existing. But Haven up first is definitely going to be very difficult for that defense, right? You're always playing with the free sites, you're always juggling one person missing from all of these fights. And I feel like it's going to hit H2O harder than it is human tripwires, especially if we don't have that JETT coming on through. Well, yes, she's been nerfed and we see her a lot less. Sometimes you really do just need that one player to be able to bulldoze their way onto the A site, drop the Clyde bursts, allow your team to move safely up ramps, completely obscured from heaven, and get onto that site, turning it into a retake position.
Well, they are going to be defending first, so I am interested to see how they do that one. And then we're going to be heading straight into another map. Obviously, none of these maps are ones we've really seen these two teams play extensively so far, so I am interested to see what kind of changes about everything, because, you know, their favorite maps are contentious ones. Breeze and Fracture, a lot of teams do not like these, but they're not insta-bans all the time, so, you know, you head forward and they'll bring it out of nowhere, and you'll be like, oh no, and then play it anyway. And, oh well, who cares? We can struggle through that, and then we can come back in the second two. But we're starting off in ways that are just kind of both teams are going to be hard pressed to open this game, and I think whoever takes that first map is really going to set the pace for the rest of the series.
Yeah, and for H2O as well, we're instantly going to get to see whether or not they have hit that adaptation that we're really wanting to see from them, whether the controllers are able to step up into that role and better support Alex. Because your chamber, with how big Haven is, it's huge! It's absolutely massive. Unfortunately, I'm in a box, so I can't really stretch my arms out as much as I want to. But the chamber is going to be all the way on one side here, and the rest of the team's going to be pushing all the way there. You see,
there you go.
The space.
I've got so much space. I can move around. It's all good.
You can be in my
little
hands.
does everybody know. Yeah, exactly. I'm not sitting down. I can. I've got some. I don't even know, athleticism to me, right? We can take a look at the agent select very shortly. So just stay put while we get that ready for you. I'm just going to keep rambling about how much space I have and how athletic I am if we keep going for this for much longer. So it's probably not a good idea to let me ramble on.
Can someone just come into your room and kick the box crate that you're standing?
If I make too much noise, maybe somebody will come and kick my door down. You never know. Who knows? Look, I have an apartment complex. Somebody's going to come through that door at some point and bring the police with them. Especially because I'm not going to answer them, am I? I've got more important things going on. I've got Valorant in front of me. What do you expect me to do?
I don't know. I mean, you had a really good entrance. I expect that post of you just walking through your door to be the entrance to every single one of your casts from now on.
Yes, I will. You know what? Every time I'm going to do it to intimidate everybody who I'm coming up into. If I'm working with somebody new on the production team, I'm going to intimidate them in that way. If the interview, I'm going to walk through in the interview. I'm going to intimidate the player we're talking to, and that just sets the tone for me to ask pressing questions, but questions that will dig right to the core of their being and really, dig out some important information. Not just what agent are you going to play next map? No. I'm going to ask the really deep questions, the ones that the fans want to know the answers to.
Like what?
What's your favorite color? Yeah, that's going to be it. And everybody's going to go, whoa, Twiggy! You can't ask that!
Tests with Twiggy and
oh, yeah! Maxi. I'm going to bring out the Myers-Briggs on everybody. Here's the agent
Valorant agent are you? Well, H2O has decided that Alex is a neon. And honestly, I love this pick, right? We were talking about needing a duelist, needing to create that space. Forgoing the chamber as a result is going to make it a little bit harder for early amounts of information, something that human tripwires are going to be very good at being able to shut down when that neon comes through, right? With the sky and the breach coming on forward, as well as Ember with the paranoias if it connects onto the neon. Essentially, all of H2O's momentum that they're trying to create is just going to stutter out. But if it works for them and they just play for one site and don't get too greedy, they should be able to find a lot of ground and a lot of danger to keep human tripwires out.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can see these are very different ideas coming through here. And this is the kind of thing with Haven, is this is really going to come down to personal preference. It's going to come down to comfort picks. It's a map where you have a lot to think about. So at some point, it's kind of like, okay, look, we're already thinking about enough as it is. Let's just get the basics out of the way. You got the Omen on both sides, which is a very, very normal pick. You got the Breach, very, very normal pick. What else are we going to do? Let's just go kind of what we're comfortable with. We got a Sova and a Sky, different things going on for both teams. And that's good to see. Nobody's sticking to one kind of thing that everybody should be doing, because you do see a lot of Sova here on Haven, because you got that lineup potential. There are no high ceilings like in Split where you can't really get a recon dart over them or anything like that. So it's really up to interpretation, and this time the interpretation is A. It's a full-on push here from H2O. They are going to open things up. Fake Ananas onto Embo to open things, but here comes the Sova. Two more, and I think it's already just about over for human tripwise on this first round.
Yeah, I was getting a little bit worried because I was looking at their composition and they don't have the Jet or the Chamber, so if they want to go for that early probe and try for first blood on the defense, there is potential for punishment, but there is so much support for Alex to be able to move up aggressively, and even if you do get pressured, you've got the relay bolts to be able to get that concussive to connect and buy yourself time for the rest of the team to move on up to where that neon is. And we are having a standoff. H2O have essentially already won the pistols. It's just human tripwires trying to find anything that they can in this round to try and damage a little bit of that economy that H2O are sitting on, because right now it's going to be a nest egg as Hattie finishes up Radsky, and H2O off to an explosive start. can now really find themselves a lot more comfortable on Haven, because we do talk about it being a little bit disadvantageous to the defenders. But if you get the economy on your side, even if human tripwires have that chamber, you could potentially have to worry about burning off a lot of time, trying to use a lot of that utility if you want to control places like C-Long and you run into a Marshal.
Yeah, that's one way to do it. We didn't expect that opening things up, and Radsky was really going to probably be hoping to open things up with a pick on that Headhunter, at the very least, just get some stuff out the way, and being left the last one alive. I mean, that's what happens when you push over on A. That's an occupational hazard of playing on Haven. On that defense, people are going to push up on that A site, because there is so much corner to work with. There's so many ways you can get through, and that's one way to do things as well. Embo just teleports in, got the shorty in hand, now has a Spectre. They can run in towards site, and it's just Jaff trying to hold this one down. Fully blind, has to go back around the corner. Fully blind again, but it doesn't matter. Finds one pick. Mucky will manage to get them some space, and they might be able to get the spike down now. In fact, they do. H2O on the back foot already in this second round.
Well, the sky removed though, so you should be able to get a little bit of a safer passage for either connector or link. As Riot is just trying to find a little bit of information, has to peek out though, and Amber will be able to pick up the Sova. Big Anana's just trying to return with a flashpoint of their own, is able to get the blind, but no one's able to be alive to pop out from connector. Still able to find one, still able to find a second. Now able to move on to the site, has to wallbang to see whether or not there's a player holding back of sight. Now goes for the chamber, but there's the Headhunter! And Radsky will be able to pick out the breach, and human tripwires take the second.
Aftershock was a bit of a gamble going through on that. You never know where somebody's going to be on that C site on Haven. You know, there are so many corners to work with. There's so many plants that you can work with, and that just opens things up. When Embo can just teleport in, get that first pick, and it's human tripwise. They have not lost any momentum coming into this one. They lost that first round convincingly, and they just went, okay, switch things up. You know, they downloaded H2O's personality on that one. They after that first round, they were just like, okay, I get it. Let's do this, and it worked.
Yeah, it all starts with Ambo being able to get that pick onto Hattie and upgrade into the Spectre. As now H2O once again is going to get aggressive, but human tripwires, they're expecting it. They know how H2O like to play, and now they're laying traps into motion. Jeff's still able to find one, but has to back out and give up good control.
Yeah, it's a perfect way to get that first pick, and it does seem like the team with the lower economy, no matter what, manages to get that first pick at the very least. Both duelists down now, both main duelists. Unless you want to consider Chamber your main duelist. I don't know.
He's a hybrid. He's a man of many roles.
Exactly. It's like when Sage was picked back in 2021. It was just kind of, you know, is your Sage your duelist? Who knows?
I can be your angel and your demon.
Yeah, your angle or your devil. Yes. Well, that's a gamble. Everybody on A here. Look at that.
Yeah, I mean, it's slow as well coming out from human tripwires. They're even sending a lot of utility up short to try and sell the bait that they're wanting that information. And H2O, now they're expecting the push onto A. They're waiting for players to try and challenge them in sewers. Meanwhile, human tripwires just find C-site entirely barren. And it's going to be really hard to get back into this one for H2O.
Yeah, human tripwires just chose the right option there. H2O have a pretty monumentous task in this one. They have a couple of weapons. I mean, they have a sheriff. That's about it. Apart from that, it's just utility to work with. It's time to try and retake this one. I think exit picks are going to be the name of the game on this. You can see they've spread out all across. Just cut off every single exit that they can, but there's still somewhere to hide over towards C-Long, and Radsky's going to hold down the site, find the first with the Headhunter. Robbie trying to hold down just the exit here to make sure his teammates have somewhere to go. Fake Ananas is going to try and find the only pick for the team on the retake. It's not going to happen. Radsky's there. Do you manage to find one? Ooh, Robbie doesn't quite find the head, and that does give Hattie a rifle. Oh, never mind.
Temporary, you know, it's a loan.
Yeah.
And then you have to return it.
Yeah, 10-second license on this one. Do you have your rifle license? No. No. No, I do not.
Immediate punishment. Well, yeah, human tripwires is the outcome that we expect with the buy that they're coming in with. Make sure they went for the gamble stack, trying to find those picks, expecting that human tripwires would try and push onto that A. Doesn't quite work out, but they are able to find a couple of picks and make it a little bit more expensive than human tripwires are wanting. It's not quite a successful eco, it's not quite the 3k that you're looking for, but it does mean that they can come in on a full buy this round, and this is really important for them to be able to take, right? This is why they have players all around the map Nanoswarm doing a very good job of just making sure that DEV0 can't move forward. He's forcing out utility. There's the Cloudburst, the Guiding Light as well to try and punish the Killjoy, who's stuck around a little bit too long.
Oh, human Tripwires get their way in. We do get one pick there from Jaff, but it's not going to make it easy for H2O once again trying to retake C. Hasn't worked the first 2 times they've tried it. Going into this one, they do have the rifles available, but they still have that man disadvantage now. They really have to think about how they want to do this one. Players swarming the site. Embo comes round from behind and makes sure that there's less and less to work with for H2O. Alex finds one, and the second onto Robbie. Has to clear a lot to get through on this one. 2 players left standing. You got one on either side. You have no idea where Embo is. Just trying to tap that spike, make sure that you can find at least one pick, but through the edge of that smoke, Embo will be the one to take the kill and the 3rd round.
Yeah, it has to go for the fast lane and then bait that player trying to move through from connector. You don't even have the real bolts either to try and clear Cubby. It is at that moment just trying to find the pick and separate those fights into the 1v1s, which for a Neon, it's manageable, right? And the fact that you're able to get 2 coming out from connector is absolutely massive for your economy. But at the same time, we're seeing some major cracks in H2O's defense, and a lot of it comes down to space. They're really not having a lot of control. They're not finding a lot of that stopping momentum or even a chance to get that first blood, which is there for human Tripwires. They've got the chamber, they've got the jet, they can go forward and get out with very little punishment, as opposed to H2O, where we've seen you'd spend a little bit too long in one space, you're immediately punished, and suddenly you just don't have enough hands to be able to slow the tide.
Okay, well, it's another opportunity for H2O to maybe do something unexpected and find a round here. It's what happened the first round. Push through. Human Tripwires not quite expecting it. They managed to find the kills and take away the round with them, but it seems like whenever Human Tripwires have that time to think about what they're doing and formulate an attack, and it seems like they're just going C every round this time. They managed to get that round away. Hattie is going to be taken down immediately. Nothing he can do there. The rest of the players hold up in CT, and DEVO's just going to run forward and try and make space for the team. The smoke is already out. They can get the spike down. The round's in their control once again, and H2O just stuck over towards the middle lanes of the map. DEVO uses the flash to get all the way around the corner. Gets that dash up, gets out of there after doing a lot of damage to Rift.
Yeah, no one was expecting DEVO to be that far into the dark cover. And once again, H2O just not having the space, not being able to control how they're able to get back into these sites. It's having to look for the picks.
Just Alex left. Oh, headshot through the smoke. That's you know, salt in the wound. Hurt a little bit. Okay, H2O didn't really expect anything out of that round, so reset. Get that mental back up. Let's try this once again. It didn't quite work out in that rifle versus rifle round before, but now is going to be the time to do it. We'll save their own economy. It'll do a little bit of damage to human Tripwires.
The problem for H2O, though, is there's a reason they were playing so far on backside. Because human Tripwires, they've got Rolling Thunder. If they want to clear a site fast, they've got the Breach Ultimate to be able to move in and do just that. And H2O were really hoping to draw that one out. And then once it's gone through, you do just swarm back onto that site from Link. But now you still have to worry about it, and you've got weapons that you want to be able to keep in your hand. Beautiful fault line actually going to be connecting onto DEVO, setting up the pick onto the Jet. And suddenly human Tripwires have lost one of their plays that really enabled momentum, make that 2 and 3 quickly after.
There it is, the defensive aggression works once again here for H2O. They found their winning formula. They managed to open things up on 1, and then the rest follow like dominoes after that. It's 5 players left alive for H2O and only 2 for human Tripwires, but Embo is going to play a bit of cat and mouse with Rift there. In the outro, no time to react. They can get the spike down at the very least. They're going to place it right in the corner there. But it's a big defense that they have to pull off here, and it looks like H2O are formulating something together.
Well, human Tripwires gonna actually be using that Trailblazer to see where Jaff is gonna be coming from. They do have the Seekers. They're gonna invest it. This is when Amber can just pop forward and try and connect through, but it is gonna be the Omen stunned out and not able to connect or move forward. The H2O, they don't have any way of moving forward other than the Breach Ultimate, and it connects with no one!
Robbie, last player standing, but has the HP advantage now. It's Fake who has to push him out of this one, but Robbie just finds the head and walks away. It doesn't matter how many players you get human Tripwires down to. They have that clutch potential, and that's a 2v5.
Oh, no. H2O were not expecting Amber to be that far into tunnel. They thought it would be around the corner.
Yep.
And unfortunately, that is their undoing. Amber were able to get back onto that site. The fact as well that H2O have to wait that long for when Spike actually goes down with a plan, even though bodies have been dropped onto the A, it's because Ember's got the ultimate. If you move forward too quickly and you position onto that A site, the Omen's just going to TP onto C site, and you're not going to be able to get back in time to stop that defuse. And it is going to be a human tripwise timeout as they realize, okay, H2O, they're very momentum heavy. If we can just keep doing what we're doing, keep throwing them off their game, stop them from feeling comfortable, we're going to be able to start running away with this.
Yeah, and it's a question of how many rounds can we take like that. Obviously, an expensive round, they lost 4 players. Doesn't matter, right now they got that bankroll. But if that keeps happening, it could get expensive, it could bring them back down to H2O's level. So they do need to be careful at the very least. You know, you can't underestimate your opponents, and H2O have shown that they do have that surprise potential. They can come through and do something that human tripwise aren't expecting. They did it first round, they did it that round. So now, maybe, I'm expecting to see a little bit more restraint from human tripwise.
I don't know. I think they're expecting H2O to go aggressive with these ultimates. Right, Hunter's Fury can be used very similar to a fault line to set up a distraction, allow Alex to move forward and use that Neon to get in. They're not going to use the Sova ult, they're not even going to use any sort of protection. The Neon just tries to set up with the fast lane and runs right to their demise.
Well, they committed the dash, that's something.
Yeah.
You know, they don't have dash anymore, so, hey. Oh, and Robbie just keeps finding heads as well. Haddy down. Now 3 players left. Human Tripwise are going to be feeling confident now. You can see they did sit back, but that's probably just a reaction to hearing Alex's ult come through there, and they can just now play it slowly. They've got the map control. You know, you've got 3 players spread thinly across the map, only Sheriffs in hand. You know that they don't really have a plan coming into this one, apart from push. DEV0 finds ahead. Only 2 left now for H2O, and at this point, it's really going to be another exit frag game.
And you can't even use Hunter's Fury. You don't want to waste it on a round like this when you're running 2 Sheriffs, and you've only got a Breach and a Sova, as it's just going to be trying to find those exit frags, but DEV0 knows, has gone hunting for it. This is how they were able to catch Haddy out in the last couple of rounds. And it will be the same story, a flawless coming out for human tripwise. Is H2O going to have to start rethinking that aggression? The overdrive was a commitment, but it might have been a little bit too confident. Without anything to really set the Neon up, it just fell so short.
Yeah, that is an unfortunate usage there, and it does just mean that you have that less firepower. I mean, yeah, you do want to use that kind of thing when you're on that lower economy, but there was really no setup there. It was really just a flash through, try and get something done. Didn't work out. Now they're on another crucial round for them. They're very low on economy. Alex is stunned up, does manage to find the kill on the Blade Storm to DEV0, but Mucky just comes through, gets the trade. They have control of A here, but they're not going to take it. They're just going to back up and play time. H2O, I mean, we know that the main way that they get kills is by pushing aggressively, so if you can just make them sweat, it's a good way of winning that round.
Embo actually is able to get onto the C site. Uses the ultimate, and normally Omens have to cancel it because they use it for the information and then they get out of village, but C is abandoned. And so he can actually anchor, allowing human tripwise to know that it's safe to move up C long and get that spike down. And Red hasn't even used Hunter's Fury! Is able to find Radsky, can now start to move through. Gonna trigger the lockdown to come out as well, making a lot of space, forcing human tripwise away from this space.
The lockdown is destroyed by the aftershock, but as human tripwise you have a pretty big task to get this one finished off. Embo, it's all up to you. Takes down 2, he needs a couple more though. Rid turns around the corner, finds one. Fake is there with the trade. They managed to get their second round on the board, but it's at a great cost to their economy.
Yeah, it's really messy, and this is something that H2O have always struggled with. Even when they're able to take rounds, their economy is just not clean, and not in a place where you want to be when you're defending a place like Haven. We get to see a single operator come through from this defense, and we're going to be heading into round 9. Wiggy.
Yeah, it's going to get more and more difficult for these guys as it just keeps, you know, they haven't really won the only round they've won with more than one member has been that first round, and that's not really a round where you know, you care that much about economy. So this one, they can buy into it, just about barely, but again, it's going to be they need to win this one if they want to have a chance to get back into this half. And it's a really crucial one now for them, and you can see Human Tripwires are now just playing it a little slower and waiting for pushes.
I mean, you can see as well if you look at H2O, the abilities that they have available. Yeah. Hattie is lacking, Riot's lacking. It's not a clean buy coming out from this defense. They don't want to play too aggressively forward. They've learned that Human Tripwires are more than happy to expend 5 seconds, 10 seconds to see if they can punch and get a first blood, and then move on to one of these sites. And H2O are letting them. They're moving onto the C site. They're playing a little bit further back, but you have to be expecting Radski every single time Human Tripwires are pushed onto the C. They try to worm a player up into window.
Oh, they make it work. Radski finds the opening pick and finds a second as well. He gets back around the corner and just about gets finished off through the wall, but Devo's just taking his place. They don't expect it. He finds one more head, he gets out of there, and they've managed to find 3 kills through an unexpected position and make it that much more difficult now for the rest of H2O to retake this one. Jaff is going to be the first to push in towards site, and they have the utility to displace the players, but they don't have the time to work with. They have to do this quickly. They're wasting time, turning around the corner. Robbie finds 1, finds 2. They make it 7 Human Tripwires.
Yeah, so you say unexpected position, but if you're H2O, you have to expect it.
Yep.
So many times they've been punished just letting these players, like the first time, fine. You can absolutely get a little bit unexpected and fall prey to an Omen who just TPs up into the window. But the second that play comes through, you cannot assume that if you lose Garage and back out, window is clear, especially if there's a dark cover. Radski is just waiting in that smoke, and the second that it evaporates, the Chamber's able to find not just 1, but 2.
Well, it's another round where H2O, all they can do is just try and lower Human Tripwires' economy. They haven't been pressed to buy anything other than rifles so far in this half. Human Tripwires, they don't mind too much. We'll let them come at them. They still have a round bank within them. Now they just play it slowly once again, and they figured out what H2O's weakness is. It seems like they can just get all the way in. Embo finds 1 pick, Devo finds a second, and the fault line is going to try and find 1, but the Cloud Burst just stops that from coming through. The flash, and Devo just uses that to get that next pick. No players are left standing almost. H2O going down 1 by 1. It's just Hattie left. And at this point, what do you even do in a 1v5?
Well, I mean, it's a classic, so at least you don't have to worry about saving. And if you can get a couple of these rifles away, better yet, if you can pick up Devo and grab that Vandal off the corpse, that's massive for your economy. Nope. But no, Devo is going to entirely stop that notion. And H2O, they are struggling. Because Human Tripwires, they've adapted. This is something we are yet to see H2O. They found something that worked, but they ran it too many times. And it was very easy to counter the Human Tripwires, right? The amount of risk that H2O is putting in for very little reward at the opening of these defenses just does not add up. And it is going to be finally a timeout coming from them, but into round 11, it feels a little bit too late.
Yeah. There's really only so much you can do at this point as well, because H2O, they probably know just as well as Human Tripwires that the way they're going to be winning rounds is aggressively, but when Human Tripwires can just sit back, wait, bide their time, they haven't really had to worry about time whatsoever so far. H2O, their options become very limited. You know, what can we do that surprises them at this point? Because we showed our hand in that first round. We showed exactly what we do, and then we showed it again, and now they're starting to catch on. They're waiting for us to go on flanks. The only time it didn't work is when they made a mistake, when they didn't check for 2 players on the flank instead of 1. H2O have got to come up with something big here, and I can't see much for this going to send Human Tripwires off the deep end in this half.
Yeah, the problem for me is agent select, right? Human Tripwires, they've got a lot of options available for them. There's not a lot of punishment if they do expend something like a flashpoint from Mucka very early on, because even if they want to push onto site with flashes, Ember's there with Paranoia, and Robbie's there with Guiding Light. H2O, if they lose the flash agent, they lose the flash agent. There is no backup. It's the same for smokes. There's very little utility overlap, but it's timeout has come through. The result and outcome is that Alex has brought up into the operator. And it has already found first blood because this is something that H2O haven't run previously. Once again, Human Tripwires not expecting it are caught unawares.
Cover going out.
They've made their way into C once again. Seems to work for them. H2O are forced into a retake play. Now use both swarm grenades. They're just going to have to play this together once again. It's the only way they can make it work. They've got one player on that flank. But DEV0's just in mid waiting. Watching for anybody to cross here. Alex, I mean, has the operator, but how much can you do when you're trying to push into a site yourself? They're going to push in. Robbie finds the pick, though, before they can even get their utility out. Jaff trying to make his way in. Addy is the one who eventually finds the kill. Everybody's back around the corners, though, and there's so much utility available for the team. Alex finds the first with the operator. Robbie in the corner gets the trade. They have to fight their way back through. The half has already been done, but H2O, their time is running out. They have to try and stick this one. It's not going to happen. Lucky will just push through the smoke, get the kill. 9 rounds on the board.
Oh, and it's looking so good for H2O as well. They're able to spin back courtyard control. Alex is able to move up into garage, and then Robbie just comes in, makes sure the operator is not there, and H2O just can't make it out alive. Crossover from garage into C, and they're gunned down. As really, H2O wanted to take that round and this round coming through so that Human Tripwires don't hit double digits before the round swaps, because then if you lose pistols, oh, you're in a precarious position. They have to take this round if they want to make sure they're not potentially on a force buy on match point.
Yeah. And they are going to go for what worked that first round. Alex is just going to push up a short there and wait for players. But again, Human Tripwires, they're not falling into the same trap that they did on the pistol round, the same trap that they fell for just a few rounds ago where they lost their second to H2O. They're waiting. They're fully aware that somebody could be pushed up, although Mucky is just going to turn around this corner. You can see he keeps turning around, waiting for that one. They do find the pick. Almost gets a headshot through the wall, but it's not quite there. The player crouching is going to dodge that one. But again, they're just all the way back at spawn. They're waiting for players to push from H2O. They know it's going to happen at some point. They're just drawing them out.
Oh no, Hattie's been forced back, and Embo, seeing the lone killjoy, is giving the communication to the rest of the team. Pressure up into the corner and full on. Nanoswarm's gonna run out. The second that Hattie runs out of it, you're gonna get gunned down.
DEV0 can't quite get away from Jaff, but at this point, 2 players left on H2O, and they have to retake this one with a Spectre and a Guardian. No, they do have a Vandal in hand, but it's still a monumentous task. Jaff will just push through. He'll find one, but the spray transfer isn't quite there. It's now Rid. All up to you. The shock dart comes through, pushed back by an aftershock, and now there's even less time to retake this one. In a 1v3, all 3 players in different positions. He needs to clear each and every one of them. He'll find the first headshot, but Radsky's there immediately with the trade.
And now there is a clear win condition for H2O. Win pistols. But how, Twiggy, do you do that when you do not have a JETT?
Yeah, it's a difficult situation to be in.
Yeah, because for Human Tripwires, on their attacks, they could say, okay, Redsky's going to go to this side of the map, he's going to get all of this information, he's going to bait out a lot of utility, a lot of repositioning coming out from H2O where they're not going to know whether we're serious about pushing this space or not. That play is not available for H2O. When Alex is spotted, the rest of the team is going to be behind the Neon, considering that Neon does not have the same level of setup and self-sustain as there is a JETT. You do not have the smokes to be able to keep yourself safe. Instead, you're relying on that fast lane, which just is not as effective.
Well, in they come again. H2O, they're going to try and rely on that aggressive power to get through and get their second pistol round on the board. It is going to have to open things up. This time, Human Tripwires have been a little more successful in keeping them back. No more successful in getting kills, though, than that first round. And Alex now has to sit back a little bit and just wait. Radsky, his attention is pulled away, but he'll still find the flick onto Jaff's head with the headhunter. Alex uses the commotion to make their way through, finds one, not going to happen. Robbie is there with the second. Down to a 3v3. This time Human Tripwires are a little more prepared for the pistol round.
Yeah, the problem though is that Human Tripwires, despite coming 3 versus 3, they've still got 2 initiators.
Yeah.
And that's going to be dangerous when there is both fault line and guiding light up for the sky and the breach. Yes, H2O have a little bit of space. They're able to get a little bit of that spike down, but Embo's going to be able to control a crossfire. And there's the bait! They weren't expecting the sky to be paired up with the Omen!
Well, they can make their way in. Robbie finds the second. Now it's just Fake versus 2. Doesn't know if anybody's going to be coming back round through CT, but before that flash can get through the wall, Fake will find the head of Mucky. He won't find the head of Robbie, though. Robbie is ecstatic about that kill. Gets the pistol round on the board for Human Tripwires, and it's just 2 rounds left to go for them.
Yeah, there's the synergy that we wanted to see coming out from Human Tripwires as well. Just the bait exposing a little bit of Ember with tease of getting an Omen on their own, and then you run into the guiding light from Robbie. It's absolutely masterful in its setup, and H2O, they just don't have the numbers, don't have the utility to be able to combat it, and now for them, this is a round that they have to win, and look at what Human Tripwires are coming in with. It's 2 Marshals to be able to open up with a whole bunch of damage if you push up C long to tenderize, so that those Spectres can just rip and shred at what's left.
DEV0 is going to be the first to try and find a kill. The flash is going to make him turn around. He will get away with his life, but it's a close one, and they do manage to get in here, H2O. It's just they need to clear so much more, and they haven't found a kill yet. Alex finds the first. Fake and then spraying through the smoke, gets a second and the third. Robbie, you can retake this, but he doesn't check the corner. Alex is right round there. Bradsky, all up to him. Just a Marshal and a Headhunter. But at this point, the 1v5 not looking likely. The force from H2O seems to have worked, but they need to get this done and keep everybody alive. Very good. They'll manage to take all 5 Spectres into the next round.
Yeah, Human Tripwire's not working with the full cake just yet, Tiggy. As it looks dangerous, the fact that Alex just crosses right back into window. Entirely unknowing that Redsky on the chamber is sitting on that B site with the Headhunter. Chooses not to go for the fight, instead wants to save their position, try and catch out the breach unawares, but Headhunter, while it can be extremely powerful in the early rounds, is not able to take out an Ananas, who is going to be sitting on that Rolling Thunder, and that's going to be instrumental for H2O if they want to be able to bulldoze their way onto one of these sites. You can already see everyone's grouped up on the C. They want to try and bulldoze over, and Amber could be the undoing because they just run right past the Omen!
I mean, that wall was just placed in the right place for Embo to lose sight of who was coming through. Had to push all the way around and just made himself completely visible. Oh, the shots through the box there, not quite going to land. Ananas gets away after planting the spike. They have all 5 players left alive, but it's not looking quite as easy as it may have been in other rounds. There's still this sense that Human Tripwires, they could retake this one. They have the quality to do this. H2O holding on to it, but I think it's exits that Human Tripwires really want out of this one. They just want to damage that economy. They have so many rounds that they can make this one back up with. Ananas will take down Mucky, but at this point, they just... I mean, the only goal is to keep every single player alive and keep that economy moving forward. And Human Tripwires don't want any of that. One stunned up Paddy in the corner now, and they don't have anywhere to go, so they have to push down these players. Luckily, they've got a pinch coming around both sides. Radsky takes down 1, but no more than that. It's the 4th round for H2O, but there's still that feeling that Human Tripwires are just lying in wait. They've trapped their team, and they just want to finish it off quickly in the end.
And for Human Tripwires, this is the round that they were waiting to pounce on. They're coming in with the better weaponry. H2O knows how important a round it is for them to be able to take, and they're investing. It's not a clean play coming out from them, but they know that they have to be able to have enough threat to keep Human Tripwires at an arm's length to make sure that Embo can't try and pull off the same shenanigans we saw in that previous round, because there isn't always going to be a fast lane to let the team move safely onto the site. And here's something new. H2O eyeing up that B site. Gonna have a presence from Jaff as well in window to make it really hard for Human Tripwires to try and pincer this in, but they're simply using the B to splitter onto the C, and no one checked window! You cannot assume if you don't have a player in garage that that angle is clear!
And that's a lot of space to be taken there. An unnecessary amount, I would say. H2O trying to hold this one down, but in comes Human Tripwires. They managed to find 2. The trades are there. But DEV0 is going ham now and has only 1 left to take down Rid with the Sheriff. Finds 1, but no more. DEV0. Oh, sorry, 1 more. But DEV0 does find the head. And it is now match point for Human Tripwires, and that investment just doesn't come up as much as H2O would have wanted.
Yeah, H2O getting really greedy. Wanting B-site, but also wanting to try and get that Neon in, the cat amongst the pigeons, to sit up in window. Does not expect Robbie to be there. You can actually even see the sort of double take as you go a little bit across, and then the immediate flick back to the sky, and the moment of realization. And the fact that you're not on chamber, you can't rendezvous out of that one. You just used your dash. And it is match point for human tripwires. It's not a clean buy coming out from them. H2O can absolutely take this one away, but it's going to be a hard-fought one. And we've already seen them struggle to keep these players alive early on in the round. This time, they are going to be clearing Garage if they try and wrestle for that C.
You do get the sense that they don't want to mess around any longer, buying up around those 2 rifles. They didn't have to. They have a lot of rounds in hand, but they do. They want to get this over as quick as possible, and Devo is just going to find one with the Blade Storm immediately. Now just holding them in place. H2O, they play off of that aggression, they play off that momentum, and now they're being staggered, they're being slowed down. And they need to try and find some map control. Hadi manages to get through the rotation of the guards, but Mookie is there to clean that one up and make sure they don't get any further. Alex trying to push through window here, but completely flashed. Doesn't matter. Devo coming through. Blade Storm doesn't quite hit. But the classic, well, only one player left, Jaff, and you get the feeling this is the end of the game, and it will be. Mookie with a 3k to finish things out, and it's a flawless round to give human tripwires that map win.
Yeah, so we said before the series started that the biggest struggle and point of contention for me for H2O has always been their initiation. Are they going to be able to get cleanly onto the sites when they're defending? Are they going to play really passively and let these teams just move on to the site and then try and get back in? Suddenly, you just circle right back to that same problem on attack. You don't have that easy entrance back through. You lose players in the scrap. You lose guns even if you're able to take the round, and that's something that we saw full force in Haven. At first, it seems like they've been able to adapt and change things up with that very big, explosive, and uncharacteristic moments of aggression that we saw from their defense, but very quickly, human tripwires saw that there wasn't really anything past that stage of development, and were able to punish.
Yeah, and I think this is really a symptom of being forced to pick a map that you're not quite as comfortable on as some of your default picks, as it were. You know, they do love their Fracture. It did not happen for them, obviously, because Human Tripwires don't want to play that map. So there you go, and it just doesn't quite work out for them because Human Tripwires seem like the more strategically available team. They managed to, you know, have a plan in place for Haven, they have a play style, and they adapted incredibly well to H2O's aggression because it seemed like that was the only thing holding together that team in that attack, in that defensive half at the very least. And yeah, no, when you can't build up enough momentum to take that map, it's just never going to come for you. So Human Tripwires seem to be in control the whole time.
Yeah, and I mean, it's really weird as well seeing a map as big as Haven get condensed into a very small area. And it was just condensed into garage and window, right? It was something that H2O struggled with when they were defending, constantly getting caught out by Human Tripwires being able to push so deeply into it because they didn't really police double doors from courtyard. They were much more content to let it slip. And then when the side swapped, we even saw Alex just trying to move forward to take that angle to punish the rotation from those players from C over to B. Wasn't expecting the players to already be positioned and lying in wait.
And it is the MVP in Devo with a 2.4 KDA and a 268 ACS, but he's not the only one up there. We talked about Embo before and his aggressive control of plays. He's also on a 2.4 KDA, 266 ACS, and in fact, no player below a 180 ACS for Human Tripwires. It's a just dominant performance from them on that first map. We're going to have to see how they push that forward into the second, but I get the feeling that they're well comfortable coming into this matchup.
Yeah, I hate to say the words JETT diff, but it definitely feels like it was just won and lost in Agent Select. And despite not being able to go on to your more favorable picks like Fracture, you are really still having to adapt into the meta. And I think the fact that Alex came in on that Neon felt reminiscent of Alliance versus Excel on Split 1, where they throw the Neon into the mix to try and throw 10-star out of the loop and figure out, okay, what is going on? We're not practiced or ready to scrim for this, but Neon's been out for so long, and that play has now actually become a little bit viable and now expected. The players are scrimming, they are expecting the Neon and the burst of aggression, and they are able to punish it because Neon has to use the burst of aggression to get in. JETT can move forward and get out.
Well, that's it for Map 1. We'll be back with Map 2 after a short break. Let's see how H2O can get back on Ascent.
Hey, I'm Robbie.